Okay, now calling the meeting to order at 5:05 as we have a quorum. And so we're missing Fred and Andy. Okay. Since we have guest speakers here tonight, or this evening, we'll do things a little differently, but the main goal of having the promoters of the, I guess we'll call it it's the climate and ecological declaring a climate and ecological disaster warrant article. The main purpose is to have a presenter from the promoters of this article, but the main goal is for us to make a decision as a committee to vote on it as to our support and what we want to say about that. And then also we can give some more feedback about the presentation and anticipation of them going before the select board and the advisory. We can give some advice, 2 cents there. And so at this point, I think Fred has had his chance and I texted him. Why don't let me introduce, we have 3 students here, Ellie, Aaliyah, and Angela, who are from Dover Sherborn High School. And they are the promoters of the warrant article. And so today they're going to present to us about the article. And I will turn it over to the 3 of you to do your thing. Thank you for coming.
Can you hear me? Oh,
yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. I think my microphone is a bit weird these days, but just let me know if anything happens. We are missing 2 people today, so presentation might be a little different, but it should be all right.
So first, 2? I see 3 of the 4. Do you have 5 of you?
Oh, we usually have 5, but one of them has scheduling issues, so she can't make it. And then another person couldn't make it today. Okay. But just a little background on ourselves. So we are part of the Dover Sherborn Sustainability Task Force, which is an environmental group of Dover Sherborn students, staff, and community members, led by Don Vittori, our school district's business manager, and myself. Our mission is to encourage conservation in our communities, spread awareness about environmental issues, and create change in our community that will move us towards a more sustainable future. So we are part of the politics subcommittee of the Sustainability Task Force, and this is what we're currently working on.
We are in a state of climate crisis. Climate change has caused more frequent and severe flooding and heavy rain, droughts, extreme heat, and wildfires, and we are additionally experiencing sea level rise, worse air quality, and lower water quality and quantity. Sometimes it's easy to ignore these changes because they seem to be only affecting other parts of the country and the world, but it's becoming more and more apparent how personal the negative effects of climate change are. And all of the photos on this slide were taken in Massachusetts in the past 6 months.
Here's the graph that shows the change in temperature over the past 150 years. As we can see, the average temperature has risen significantly, and we've already experienced a 1 degree Celsius increase in temperature. If you're curious about the spike in the 1940s, it can be attributed to World War II, and lots of climate legislation was passed in the 1970s, which may explain the brief decrease in temperature.
So this past December, we had 9 days where the high was above 50 degrees. Of those 9 days, 6 of them had highs of 60 degrees. And I think we can all agree that these are not normal temperatures for us in New England. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration online weather data, the average December temperature was 33.2 degrees Fahrenheit in 1981 compared to an average of 39.2 degrees Fahrenheit this past December in 2021, which is a 6 degree difference. The year average was 51.5 degrees Fahrenheit in 1981, which has increased to an average of 54.4 degrees Fahrenheit this past year, which is a 2.9 degree difference. Other changes we're seeing is that our water quality and quantity are being threatened. So runoff from storms contains toxins from our streets, cars, and buildings, and this water sinks into the ground and risks getting into our wells. And Sherborn is solely dependent on residential well water, meaning if this well water is contaminated or runs dry, there's no alternative source for us to use. Also, there are less days of rain, but rain falls heavier in the past on those days that we do have rain. And if we don't address this issue, it'll become increasingly necessary to spend more money on repairing damages to homes and properties.
Additionally, poor air quality and high temperatures cause residents to suffer more respiratory and heat-related illnesses. And higher temperatures lead to more days ticks are out, which means increased cases of Lyme disease and other tick-borne illnesses.
So here are some recent headlines regarding climate change locally. In Massachusetts, we have seen more frequent and severe droughts, as well as rising temperatures and sea levels. Data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration shows that New England is warming faster than the rest of the planet, except in Alaska. So average annual temperatures have risen the fastest of the New England states, rising 1.97 degrees Celsius or 3.55 degrees Fahrenheit in the period between 1900 and 2020. So Massachusetts has already exceeded the temperature goal of a 1.5 degrees Celsius rise set by the Paris Climate Accord. However, we have some good news. Last April, Governor Baker signed climate legislation that pledges to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. The Baker-Polito administration has also released a climate roadmap to achieving these goals by 2050. The administration also released a 2030 clean energy and climate plan. So this plan will help the Commonwealth meet its 2030 emissions limit of 45% below 1990 levels, which will require a reduction in statewide emissions of about 19 million metric tons below current levels.
Sherborn has already taken some actions to combat climate change. We've hired 2 sustainability coordinators. We've increased insulation and air sealing in Pine Hill Elementary School. We are currently implementing large solar installations at the Town Department of Public Works building. We are undergoing a calculation of a town-wide greenhouse gas inventory, and we are preparing a town-wide climate action plan, which will further lower the town's carbon footprint.
And just since Sherborn and Dover are so connected through the school systems, here are just a couple things that Dover is doing.
It's important.
Sorry.
It's important that we don't only focus on adaptation, which is changing how the towns function in response to an issue, but also mitigation, which is taking measures to prevent problems before they occur.
This is an example of an action a different town is taking to combat climate change. Needham has put in a solar array on over 12 acres of land, which minimizes their carbon emissions by use of cleaner energy. The estimated carbon dioxide that's going to be avoided over the next 20 years is the equivalent of the amount that would be produced by, or that amount that would be absorbed by 1.1 million newly planted trees.
Wellesley is also making a difference and is currently working to develop a climate action plan, which aims to increase walkability, promote carbon-free transportation, and also supply affordable carbon-free electricity with the goal to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050. And Wellesley has already made significant progress in reducing emissions.
So this brings us to our article. Our climate emergency article is asking the town to create a climate action plan that addresses and explains the benefits, costs, strategies, and tactics of reducing community-wide greenhouse gas emissions. It's also asking that the town identify, prioritize, and publish a list of projects that reduce the town's greenhouse emissions. And personally, what I think the most important is to communicate to all town departments, businesses, and residents the critical need to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions as soon as possible. We must focus on solutions that get to the root of the problems and prevent climate change from worsening. While it is also important that we adapt and come up with solutions to these problems, climate change mitigation is the key to making a real difference.
Over 20 communities in Massachusetts have already passed a climate emergency declaration. And this is just for further proof that this is something people all over our state are supportive of. And yeah, this is something that is widely supported by people in our state.
We owe it to future generations to protect our planet and pass on a world that is not devastated beyond help. By passing this climate emergency declaration, Sherborn acknowledges the issues that we currently face, expresses its support for the cause, and pledges to take action.
And then that's the end of our presentation. So I guess any questions or comments?
Okay. You can stop sharing your screen if possible. I will, Marion, as a guest here, and somebody who's coming up in the select board, whether, given your time schedule, whether you want to, I'll give you first shot if you want to do something, or others can come and people can raise their hands to make comments.
Oh, thank you. This was nice and short. So I was, I have to leave before the hour's over, but that's okay. Yeah, well, since I have the chance, I'll say I think it's terrific that you students have put this together, and certainly your student community must be, their consciousness must be very much raised about climate change. I'm sure it is already. As far as presenting this to the town, so I mean, bottom line is, of course, I'm supportive of this. I think it's great that the students are making this statement and encouraging the town to take a stand. That's terrific. So thanks for doing this. As far as presenting it to the select board and the town, I think the first questions that will come up are, well, what might your group add to the conversation that the Energy and Sustainability Committee is already having? I think the town would want to know what's not already being done by someone else, and how do you add to the effort in very specific ways. And second, as far as your presentation goes, it was very well done, nice PowerPoints and really good presentation. I think that you spend a lot of time talking about the problem, and we get this from all sides these days. So if you could elaborate more on actions that you'd like to see taken in the town, and less on the dangers of climate change, which we all painfully know, it would be better, I think. And I think that it's a big order, because it's hard to come up with very specific actions the town can take, but the more you can do that, the better. So thank you.
Do you want to reply to her?
I mean, yeah, sure. I think that, whether it's what we add to what the committee is already doing, I think as a group of young people, we add a new perspective, because we are looking for things, further down the line. No offense to anybody here, but we're just more conscious of how things will look, say 50 or 60 years down the line. So we have a more long-term perspective. And I think on actions, since we are a younger group and we are on social media more, we could definitely spread awareness about this issue. And we also are probably better with technology, so we could create more interactive material online, or help educate the town on these issues. Does anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, that would be good to have as part of your presentation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Michael, did you have something to say?
I do. I just didn't know if any of you wanted to say anything more to what Marion said. Yeah, I mean, I've seen the presentation. You're getting better at the presentation. I would say that since this is the third time I've seen it. So congratulations. I'm going to change to a sort of I have a number of topics, but I'll just start with one right now. But I guess I guess I should come back to the original point that I even made for the committee itself, that I guess I'm saying the obvious of that we're in support of this article, and that the committee will discuss it at some point after this meeting and make a formal vote about this. And we'll prepare our own statement of support for the article that we would present to other boards, to the select board and to advisory in town. And that I would like to think that we're all in agreement on this, and we will do that. I can't speak for everybody else, but I have a feeling I can. The shy of that, and other people can answer that issue, but I was going to bring up an issue of whether you can show whether you've done work in terms of support for this article from your fellow students and your parents, whether it's an issue of whether it's asking too much to sort of even come to at least a town meeting with some sense of what kind of support this has within the student community, as a way of really making a much stronger point to them about the importance of this issue and what the grassroots support is for this. I don't know if that's something that's been discussed at the high school, and to what extent it is even something that you can translate into parents speaking in support of this town meeting. I don't know if it's literally like a petition kind of like thing, that formal, or just something that might indicate that kind of broader support. I'll stop there and let other people, you can answer that, and then other people can start talking. Oh.
When we were beginning with this task, we did think about, getting support from students, and that was quickly shot down because, most of us are not over 18. And we can't, sign any formal petitions. But I think that if it's just showing our support as a student body, I think that we'll definitely be able to get a lot of support if we, set up a petition in one way or another, but still make it formal enough that, it makes sense. Yeah, it's a good idea.
And whether you want to see whether there's a parallel parent effort to show support for this.
Yeah, definitely.
That I think you could put it on some elders to also do some of their bit on this too, in terms of expressing their support. And that could happen at the select board, at advisory, as well as a town meeting. Is something that you can look to mobilize, that I think other people in town would take note of.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you. Tom, you can go now.
Great, I can speak.
Yeah.
No, thank you, students. Very, very impressed. I wish I had the wherewithal at your age to get into public speaking, but dare say it took many decades after that to get comfortable. Very impressive. I would hope you jotted down some notes from Marion's questions, because as a select board member, she's a very critical person, and I think I echo some of the things she raised. But what I'd like to mention, a couple things. One is you had a lot of great examples of what's known about climate change, and I do think you could reduce that. I think you might have had too many. And there was one slide in particular, and I'd be happy to talk to any of you one-on-one. The one with the December temperature, that was kind of like I think too much for an audience to follow. But I'm just trying to see where you might reduce the slide deck. And then also, I thought some of those photos of Massachusetts uh, extreme weather flood events were very good. However, you don't have any of Sherborn, and I have some, if you'd be interested. Bringing it even more dramatically home to people in Sherborn.
You have Sherborne flooding photos?
Yep.
Hmm. That'll be
Yeah,
good.
that it would be amazing if you could send those over, like
A-
help us.
And predicted flooding photos or maps.
That would
Yeah.
definitely be very helpful. Thank you.
But it's good you're practicing this, and you've already done, I heard from Michael 3 times. I mean, practice makes perfect. That I'm very impressed with your investment and time on this.
Thank you. Dorothea. Oh, you're muted.
Yes, I know. I'm having difficulties today with getting myself a voice. Anyhow, needless to say, I really support this, and I think this is really it's going to take us all a step forward. And I'm hearing Marianne saying, like, what does this add to the work that the Energy and Sustainability Committee is doing, and what Gina and I are doing currently? And the first thing that comes to mind as a parent is, like, when I'm hearing all of this, this is the urgency, I think, that is something that you can add to the topic here. I mean, I'm reading the Boston climate edition by Sabrina Shankman, and it's really a lot of industrialized nations looking at the time running out. We have, if you look at the climate bill that you presented on, if we have to reduce 50% of our community-wide emissions by 2030, this is 8 years left. And I think it doesn't ring home for many people that this is a very limited time, and we have to do immense strides to get to this goal. For that reason, I would suggest, I think, more graphics in your slide deck about the climate bill. What does that really mean? I mean, you have the greenhouse gas emission inventory from Sherborn, and you can visualize what this really means to do that step. And it cannot happen without the residents. We know this. And I think that's where you can bring in the urgency and basically saying, if this is a tremendous communal undertaking that you asking to do for your generation. I think this is something that's still missing in the presentation a little bit from my personal view. And you're talking about numbers at a point about the climate bill where I would rather see like a visual than hearing these numbers, because people need to see graphs to understand what the numbers mean. And I've talked to many people about green energy in my life, and it's better to see a number or to reduce a number to a percentage than rather hear it, because it's hard to absorb. So I'd like to see a couple of slides go away and being replaced by stark visuals. For example, you have only the flood in there. You mentioned the drought, but there is no drought picture. And I don't know if Tom can help with that too, but
I have some drought pictures of town.
It comes from both sides, and like too less and too little. And that is also connected to the loss of biodiversity. So of course, you guys want to stay focused on what you're trying to do with your article, but I've tried to be today, look at fresh eyes at this presentation. And I'm hearing too many numbers, and I see too little compelling visuals that, I usually, that we see on an everyday basis in all the big newspapers and online editions. And I think you can make that work for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll definitely work on that. I think something we were trying to figure out how to balance was like graphs and statistics, and then, visuals that people can comprehend easily. Because I think we did hear other feedback that having a lot of graphs was hard to look at in a, just having a bunch of just numbers in front of your faces at the same time, not very appealing for a lot of people. So I think it's just working out how to balance the two, so both sides could be appeased.
I agree. And in communicating climate change, you will need a town meeting, especially a lot of people that are coming from very different levels of education. I mean, the Energy Committee and Energy and Sustainability Committee, I learned they're very, very educated guys, and some of them come in here from a personal passion. But you will, for example, I was reading an email today where somebody said some people don't understand what a carbon footprint is. And it was shocking to me because I thought it was, meanwhile, a common vernacular in everyday's conversation. We're in a very educated community, Dover and Sherborn, but I think pictures speak more than anything else. And if you can use them as a proof of the problem you're having, you can save yourself a lot of numbers. People will understand, and they can connect to that with a personal experience. I know that drought and heat waves are an issue for our elderly in town, and not all of our constituents have AC, for example. So we are dealing with a very kind of like imminent problem. I think it has not hit home with a lot of people yet.
Yeah, those are good points. Brad?
Yeah, great job, great presentation, everyone. I really applaud you on taking time out of your, very busy high school schedules to actually put together this initiative, and the effort's ongoing. I would say that Marion makes some great points in terms of one thing that stuck out to me was what more can you add over the ESC, and to me, by even creating this warrant article, you did it. Like, this is something that we should have done, or that we would probably get around to. You beat us to it. And it's really important, this article in and of itself, because it really kind of lends validity to the effort that we put forth for these various initiatives, some of which have already started, have been brought to I wouldn't say conclusion, but I know that Dorothea worked hard on the greenhouse gas inventory, and I'm guessing that's probably a semi-regular thing. But just bringing this forth and you as students doing it, I think it further reinforces its importance. And in Dover Sherborn, we're a community where we really prioritize education and our students. And I think that, again, it's a real strength that you as students are kind of the catalyst for this. And what else? Yeah, I mean, you're the owners of this presentation, first off. So you're going to hear lots of constructive criticism. And in the end, we're going to give you our recommendations, but it's your product. And so, take what you feel is best. For me personally, I want a mixture of numbers and pictures. Like I'm in the science fields, and so for me personally, I like graphs. But Dorothy is right. Like, it's a mixture. It's a big community with various backgrounds. And so, and I agree with Tom as well, in terms of like maybe taking some of the slides about the repercussions of climate change and maybe using that time more towards what can we do next. And you started to touch on it with one of your slides where or maybe it was just in the warrant article itself talking about updating building codes, things like that, more electrification. I think it's great that Tom's offering some visuals that are relative, that are specific to Sherborn. I think that's going to help it to hit home more. If you want, I gave a brief little presentation a couple months ago to the ESC where I was able to find a figure from a scientific manuscript about carbon footprint, greenhouse gas emissions in the area. And it was a heat map, which is just, it's, you guys might already know that, so apologies if you're familiar with it, but it's just a colorimetric type of change based on the intensity of the emissions. And Sherborn's pretty high. And it's not surprising because, I mean, there's so many of us that are burning oil to heat our homes, and we have big homes too. And so to me, that was kind of that helped to I don't know, contextualize our role in state emissions. And so I'd be happy to share that if you want it. If you don't, that's fine too. Again, it's your product, but very well done. And as Michael said, practice makes perfect. It's the more you practice, the smoother it's going to flow. And again, being in kind of the research field, I'm a big fan of citations. I don't know if you could squeeze a couple of those in there when you are referencing some of these statistics, but that would help. And again, hitting more towards home, you might even be able to reference the EEE situation that we had a few years ago, where I remember personally, like in my neighborhood, we always have a big neighborhood barbecue, and it got shut down that year because of EEE. And to me, this is another kind of downstream effect of climate change, is more spread of infectious diseases. You mentioned Lyme disease. That's great. Sherborn's got the highest incidence outside of the islands, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, Lyme disease, EEE. I mean, we're already feeling this, and it's accelerating, unfortunately. But great job. Very impressed.
Yeah, thank you. Honestly, we did not remember EEE because it felt like ages since COVID. I remember when that was like all people focused on, and then COVID came and that was like the smallest thing in comparison. But yeah, it would be great if you could send some of the was it the heat map? Yeah, that would be really helpful for us because I think it also gives like a really clear picture instead of just showing, I don't know, numbers or a graph. It would be more of a visual thing. That'd be really helpful. Thank you. Frank?
I'll echo everybody else's response. Really wonderful job, very professional, good flow, good tempo, all of that. Applaud the effort. I think it's great that that it's being brought up, that the visibility is being put out there. And I think also especially that the professionalness that you are bringing to this, and as young people, as students, and that this is an important thing for you. So I also really agree. I think it was Michael who brought up the point of seeing the rest of the student buy-in. I think that's a really important aspect. I also feel that you will be given, because of your age and your passion for this, to the select board and at the annual town meeting, you'll get a lot of respect from those bodies for doing this, which is really a wonderful thing that is coming from you guys, as something that's just important. But at the end of the day, you're looking for a vote from the town to make this go through. You want to vote from the town that says, we want to prioritize this. So I think one of the things that you need to add to your presentation, or at least think about in the presentation somewhere, is that there are people that don't just not know, but there are people that know and are very educated as well, and feel as though this is not a problem of greenhouse gas. This is a problem of just the climate changing, and their cyclicness, and this is just part of a larger, chain of what the world and what our Earth is going through, and it's not necessarily man-made. And I think, your chart that shows this 160 years, I think it was, is a step in that. And you may want to look for some data that shows that it is a result of man-made versus a natural cycle in the Earth or in our globe's change. At least hitting that as a point, knowing that there's going to be somebody that's going to come up and say that. They'll say, great presentation, you make great points, but you haven't proved to me that this is a man-made situation. So why should we vote for this?
Yeah.
And
I
I think there's a few people out there like that.
Yeah, we could. I mean, I could try to find, in Al Gore's like An Inconvenient Truth, he has that graph that kind of like goes up and up. I could try to find it and then put it in somewhere because I feel like that's a pretty powerful visual that kind of derails.
I'm going
my
to add, I'm
argument.
going to do a certain point of view that I brought up, I think, when you first, a little different from what you say, Frank, that I'm interjecting out of order, but I don't think this is going to be a place to have that debate. And that if people aren't, that your goal is not to convince people like that. And that I think it might be a not a very good use of time at the meeting. And I would, as I think I said in the first time I heard this, that I would actively just not go down that route of saying that, do I have to show you that it's man-made? One would just say that it's a scientific consensus that it's man-made, and this is not the place that to spend the time on that, and that it's not your job to convince people of that. If they're not there, I'm not quite sure it's worth your time to spend time on it, or even slide time in your presentation even. It could be a little phrase in there, but I sort of feel a little differently than what you were saying, Frank, about whether it's a good use of time. But sorry, I got out of order. I just couldn't resist.
Well, I'll go in order. First of all, what Michael just said, I totally agree with. And I would just simply say to people who doubt this, go to the International Panel on Climate Change and read the data and then come back and talk to me, because it's all right there. Of course, it's also 600 pages long, but don't tell them that. But I'd like to, first of all, say this is great. I'm so pleased with the progress you've made on this. Your presentations are stronger than they've ever been before. It just is really good to see, because you're coming across with a confidence that says, I know what I'm talking about here. Right? And that people react to that. I'd also say that, as Brad said, this is your product. So anything we say here is just advice. And like all advice, you can take it or leave it as you see fit. This is your show. I would agree with Dorothea that the sense of urgency was a little light. This is your future. I ain't gonna be around for that much longer. But this is your future, and your passion comes through, and I just make that statement flat out that this is not something we can wait for. I like the idea of kind of putting up 2022 and the target being 2030, and afterwards saying that's 8 years from now. That's 8 years from now. What are we going to do in 8 years? And I agree with a lot of what Marion said as well. But mostly, I'm just really pleased at the progress of this and how it's coming together, and how you're all showing up as people who really know what you're talking about.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we did receive a lot of advice today, so it's definitely going to be, an effort to put it all together and then try to make sense of all of it. Thank you, though. Dorothea?
I just wanted to say, maybe I came across as a critical German. And I wanna let you know that this is absolutely great, and it comes at a very good time. It's gonna help ESC, it's gonna help me, and and yes, I'm in the same boat. I have kids your age, and it is one of the biggest undertakings. And I'm glad we have you as Alliance in here. And yes, I made my comments so far. Just one little thing, I think when it comes to all the other communities that have gone to have passed the declaration, isn't it interesting that so many communities are located on the Cape? Because that's where they really experience that much more what's happening than, you know, our landlocked community is. And we are seeing that, you know, the experience felt more intensely. People are doing these things, and I'm expecting more that this will happen more often, right? So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be offended by any of the criticism because I'd rather be like bombarded here than at an open hearing and then completely die. So like, we're not offended. I'd rather have more critiques than less.
Good.
Michael?
I'm going to come back to, I have a number of things that some of which I could write later, but one thing I think is important to get on the same page with what we do in Sherborn is to make sure you're clear about what we've done. For example, when you present that that there is a greenhouse gas inventory done, as opposed to you think it's being done. I think we come across stronger, and it sort of fits with a little of like what people ask, what's new here, that it's just clear. We'll send you our annual report of what we did in the last year, that you could see some activities that we're doing, but just to be clear that we've done an inventory. We have done some work on a climate action plan. You're asking the town that something be done in a year, so that it puts a little fire and a little pressure. Let's say, okay, let the committee figure out a way, or the town to figure out a way to come up with a plan that we're working on. But I think you should just be, in the way you present, that you're just clear that we have an inventory, we've been doing climate action plan, that we've been talking about doing various programs, like to promote heat pumps and to do some solar, but that those things are there, and that, and a little of and that it loops around to Marion's point. I mean, we're basically, I think I tried to write it up. I did a draft letter of support for this thing that we could share with you, where it comes back to that this gets the town more on the same page as a whole about the importance of this issue. And it comes back a little to Dorothea's issue of, or others of saying there is urgency here. I think that highlighting the urgency, if you feel this, is going to be useful to what the purpose of this article is. And that ties back around to where I think, again, as we've said to you before, that I think that news article about Governor Baker, or whether it's Governor Baker or just call it the Massachusetts roadmap. You don't have to give it credit to the governor. It's basically everybody that the legislature actually supported it, and that it's now a state act that's been passed, that having it on its own separate slide, and you're going to you've already gotten conflicting views about how much is a figure versus a graph versus a number. But I think breaking out at least one slide with just goals for just call it the Massachusetts roadmap to climate policy, or whatever the formal name is, and say that it has plans for 2025 that they're working on now, for 2030. The 2030 goal is this, the 2050 is net zero, and just be aware of the fact that nobody knows. A lot of people don't know what net zero means. It really just means we want zero emissions, but somehow you're getting a little bit credit for generating, if you even know what it is, the nitty gritty of what net zero means, and the fact that somehow it allows you to generate renewables to counterbalance some fossil fuel use, as opposed to just no fossil fuel use by 2050. But just be aware of that jargon issue. But that the goal is basically zero emissions by 2050, and so roughly. but having those kind of numeric things all on one just slide and showing the fact that I don't know when the 2025 plan is going to come out. I think they're working on it now. But, and just, I mean, it doesn't have to be a lot there, but I think that would maybe answer some of the earlier people's comments here, as well as make it clearer to the town, and that this, all of our town efforts are not just because it's a climate crisis, an emergency, it's doing our job to meet these goals. And that having them right in front of your face is okay. And what does it mean? You could say that fact that if we're cutting our emissions by 50% by 2030, that could mean that half the cars in Sherborn should be electric vehicles by 2030. That's like, wow. I find that kind of staggering when I think about that. And whether half the houses are going to be no longer using fuel oil or natural gas is a phenomenal change to go on. I don't know how realistic, but whatever. And to say that there are programs at the state to promote that with heat pumps. And I guess it comes back to what, and whether you want to bring up, yes, I'll finish with what Marion's point about what else this, it's basically putting that urgency to the fact that there are actions the town can take in terms of, you know, EVs, your building energy use, the town's operations, and that's what you want to light a little fire under people's behinds to do. People, and that you got to do it quickly. Yes, and some of the other things like that slide on the temperatures you got to change. But I'll let other people go.
Yeah, Dorothea has sent us the Sherborn's greenhouse gas inventory, so we can include that, and
Yeah.
also the climate roadmap.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Super.
just to say that it's done. I mean, my point was more a matter of just seeing that we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
That you know it's being done, and you know that we're working on this, and that you want the town to just, and you want to add some urgency to it, as well as you want to help in doing it, and that you can mobilize people to do more of it. And this also gets everybody in town to make a much more clear commitment to these things here, that we're asking you to actually vote this way, and then you'll have to actually vote with your feet and actually do something, but at least we can vote with their hands at town meeting.
Yeah, definitely. Tom, because we're running low on time.
Yeah.
I don't think Gino's spoken yet, so let's let Gino.
That's good. Yeah.
Thank you. I just had two things. One, kind of expanding on one of the things Michael said about the list of accomplishments for both Dover and Sherborn. Some of them sound like they're in process, whereas they're actually been done for years. And it should be more clearly stated that way. Also, well, kind of part of that, you show that Dover's a green community, but not Sherborn. But Sherborn was a green community more than 10 years ago. But the other thing, and just again, everybody's talking about don't make it longer and all that. But one other, in terms of like Marion's comment about things to do, we've been waiting for some guidance on the new stretch code, and that would be a net zero stretch code optional. And that is, just found out this afternoon that
It's
draft
jargon for
versions
building
of that.
code.
What's that, Michael?
It's you using the jargon again, whether they realize that's the building code.
Yeah, right. But my point is that draft versions of that, I believe, are coming out tomorrow. There's a webinar tomorrow morning, and comments due in March. So that just might be in part of your list of things to do. It kind of helps set up the town to favorably view that that code for when it probably will come up next year at town meeting.
Mhm.
We forgot the issue of that aggregation. We're going to have aggregation, and we want to get people to do renewable energy. Forgot about adding that one of the actions. I don't know, do you know what this community aggregation is? You guys, you?
We do not.
Okay. At some point, we'll have to send you material on it, because to make it simpler rather than do it now, but it's a way that the town collectively buys electricity for all of its residents. And then you can create a default option where you get more renewable energy based electricity than you're getting now in your homes. for the standard stuff. And one of the things that we're going to make a big push on is that when we can do this program and we buy the electricity as a group for all the residents, is that we're going to try to ask as many people as possible to sign up for an option where you get 100% renewable energy based electricity, which will make a tremendous difference in the carbon footprint. But getting everybody, because people don't have to choose it, they can opt for lower levels because it might cost a little bit more. It will cost probably a little bit more, but that's something that even I forget that. Well, I sort of have it in the letter, but that's an example of something that where the people can put their really do something for real. If that when that aggregation plan comes up and they have a choice for 100% renewable energy based electricity, you sign up for it. You don't just say, oh, geez, I want to save $10, $20 a month or something like that and do something like half of that. So that's a concrete example of something else.
Tom?
Yeah, I want to try to give you one last piece of advice and not pile on, continue to pile on like we have here with good suggestions for slide content and refocus a little. And actually, I have a question for Gino. At this town meeting, Gino, this warrant article, is it a 50% vote or 2/3 vote
50%.
required? Okay, that's actually good news. That's kind of a lower bar. And the point I want to make is you're entering, whether you know it or not, the political arena. And in the political arena, to succeed, you need to learn how to count votes. And so at our town meetings in Sherborn, you get a couple hundred people. I think last year was a record. We had like 500 people. I don't know what people's expectation are this year and what COVID will do to it and where it's going to be held. But you got to get 50% of 200, 300, 400, 500 people. And you got to think in terms of where they stand on a topic like this. And I think you're in good shape, but you might want to think about who your constituencies are and fine tune your presentation to try to win as many of those 50%ers as you may not have right now. You don't have to hit a home run. You don't need 66% or 99% of the people. So you can keep that in mind and remember your goal. You need 51% of the people in the room.
Need to get those parents of students out.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll
Turnout.
definitely.
Thank
think
you,
of that.
Michael. Turnout. Yes.
Dorothea?
I just wanted to see if we can, I can share screen, Michael.
Could always share a screen.
Okay, so I wanted to show quickly those three kind of like graphs that I was sending over. So there is a complete greenhouse gas inventory. This is the graph that I came up with for a presentation to seniors, and that is maybe helpful. But that was actually part of another student presentation early on. It's about, we do have the technology to do that, right? It's not that we don't know what we need to do these 50% reductions. Everything is already there. It's a question, how do we convince people to make these investments that will save the future of your generation? So just as some bits here that might work on a larger group.
Yeah, I mean, this is geared towards Sherborn, except for the last one. And then since we are working on this in both towns, honestly, I think we should just create separate slideshows because each one is slightly different. And then sometimes it's hard to go back and forth between the two. But yeah, we'll try to work that into our presentation for Sherborn. we have like 1 minute left, so
Yeah.
is there
Yes.
anything final that anyone wants to say? I know I ended up running this meeting, which I kind of apologize for, but
No, that's fine. That's what I expected.
I just want to say good luck, and you know, I think to Tom's point, the goal is at the end of the day, you want to walk away with you know, with a positive result, and that is getting the votes that we need. So I think that another good piece of advice was getting out the vote, and you guys doing this is just an awesome thing. That's great. And if you know, can get that student body to petition that, you know, that the students are interested in this as well, I think that's a, you know, very, very powerful statement. So if there's any, if you want to come back and need to come back or have some further discussions with any one of us, please feel free to do so, or with the group, just get, you know, go through Dorothy or Mike, and we'll do whatever we can to help, but good luck. We want you to succeed.
oh,
Yes.
thank you.
We'll let you know the outcome of our vote.
Okay.
We'll see what happens in the next 5 minutes after this. We'll share with you some letter of support that we'll draft to be sending in and stuff like that too. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. You're welcome to hang around. We're just gonna just discuss it now and do a vote because we have other things to talk about too today on our meeting. But thank you very much. And
Thank you. Have a great night.
yeah, bye.
Me too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for your time.
Sounds like they all have homework.
Yep. I have homework too, but before we get to do we any more? Do we have any other discussion here about whether we want to vote to support this article?
I'm in favor.
Okay, I move that we support this. Let's see, what's the wording for this? I guess it's basically support. That we support the article that's coming before town meeting on the climate and ecological emergency.
A second it.
Any discussion? And I guess what we really forgot was who to victimize with them taking minutes is the discussion item. Somebody has to record somebody volunteered to do some abbreviated minutes for this. That we discussed we had a presentation. Okay, Frank. Okay, any other discussion? Michael, aye. Frank?
I
Brad?
Aye.
That's that joke.
Was that on purpose?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't.
Sorry,
You
that's
did
it.
deadpan face that you got me.
Brad.
Fred?
Fred
Aye.
says yes.
I can't tell if both of you have done it by now. Tom?
Aye.
Okay. Approved 5. What do we got? 5-0. Now, as I committed to last time, I sort of did a letter of that I sent out just a while ago that I'm sure none of you have seen. I'm not sure if it's worth just briefly looking at it here, because I can't tell when anybody's going before the select board. But I guess that's the next step, is for them to go before the select board, to what extent we want to be able to send a letter of support there. Whether we just have a motion that I can send in a letter of support based on the draft that I did and edits that I received from all of you, if that's a way to go at it, versus I could bring it up on the screen now, and people can debate some of the points a little bit. We can just limit it to like 5 minutes. Yeah.
Michael, I believe the select board is going to be discussing warrant articles at a meeting on Saturday. to some extent on Thursday, but also on Saturday
Oh, so this 10th and 12th of this month. Oh, okay.
And-
this week.
And also potentially this Thursday?
I think it might be mostly on Saturday. But either way, they
Yeah,
need,
it's
they need to
soon.
get the letter this week.
Then I'm gonna, let's see. I don't know. I guess it's hard because everybody's got different styles. I could reread this thing and change it. I'm gonna leave this on the screen and give you guys a few minutes to read something to see
Good.
Michael, draft article support from the
whether there's some major changes or edits. I can do wordsmithing off screen, but I'll shut up now.
Michael, in general, I liked it on a quick read, although
Right.
if there's any way to even make it shorter. I know you probably struggled to keep it to one page.
We'll let others read it and then we'll come back to what would be dropped if there's some consensus. Because I felt like I included certain things for reasons, but let the others digest. Say when you're finished reading.
I finished reading it. One of the things that I think Dorothy brought up is a really good point, and a point that, and I apologize, somebody else, I think it was you, Michael, brought it up. You know, we're not going to include a list of everything that we've done, but you know, we can certainly indicate that there's some that we've been working on this. But I think the key thing here is the urgency of this happening. And I think that should be something that should be underscored in this letter, that not only that we support them, but that there's an urgency and a shortened timeline, for lack of a better word, that I would like to see added to this.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I think it's great.
The paragraph above where you're typing says it's an urgent and critical issue.
That's why I put the comment there.
I haven't gone through the entire thing yet. I'm on I guess it's the 4th paragraph that begins with the establishment and support of the ESC. The final sentence, this will require a lot of work that will return manyfold benefits. I wonder if we would include work and investment, because you would think that we will reap a similar return with the investment. I mean, it's ultimately going to, in the long run, save money by, you know, making these early, it's not really early investments. We're all late with these investments, but, you know, the earlier you make them, the more, the faster you get to a return on investment. And, you know, it's a given that, like, if you don't, it's much more cost effective to invest in prevention than cure. And so it's just, that's why I'm kind of trying to squeeze in investment there.
Yeah, right. That's where I had in brackets here. I stuck in later, lower cost.
Lower, okay, lower. Okay, that's
Yeah.
what you meant by that. Lower
That's what I was,
okay.
Right. That eventually the world would go to renewable energy. It's just a matter, we need to do it faster than it would take the markets to do it regularly. Is my current view of it all.
Yeah, and I guess what I mean by investment too.
No, I agree with you, Bessie. It's going to take, people are going to have to put money on the table.
Yeah, yeah. But then, it's cheaper than having to, mitigate floods every year and famine and, yeah, drought.
I would just add, right where you are, Michael, I'd add or via aggregation or something.
That's actually what I was moving to put in. That was the same word. Well, it's via rooftop too, that's why. But I guess you're right. But yes, whoops. Guess we've lost the last one. I think there's another sentence here. Yeah. Just so you know, the last things would basically try to reinforce what they're asking for. The reason, partly to respond to some of Tom's thing of that the last four little paragraphs here, the article asks for, it points out this, the article that, and lastly that is basically my attempt, what I think is to reinforce the specifics of what that article asks for, whether that's unnecessary. I liked doing it. And because that's made, these are the major points that they ask for.
I think it's great. It's thorough, but also tight. Thank you for drafting this.
So I think it's in good shape, Michael, although if you can reduce it by a sentence or two with
Where would you
wordsmithing.
recommend? You can.
I don't know. I don't know. You're
Okay.
a better wordsmither than me. And the one
Not
other,
sure I am, but
the one other thought I have, looking at this and thinking back to the students' presentation the past hour, is it clear? Do you think it's clear to the average resident in Sherborn that their life has to change drastically in the next 8 years? And their home investments.
well, I don't know if their
They're
life
like-
has to change.
They've got 3 combustion cars in their garage. They got to get rid of those 3, replace them with EVs. They have either a oil fired burner in their basement or a natural gas boiler. That has to go. These
I
are
was
major
differentiating- I was
changes.
between, they're still going to be driving around. We haven't asked it. We haven't brought up the whole idea of like, you should really be riding your bicycle and walking more and not driving your car. Now that's
Another
lifestyle
change.
That's a
Yeah.
lifestyle change. Whereas changing whether your car is an EV or other things, sometimes I don't feel as a lifestyle change as opposed to just, it's just a consumption change. But right, I don't know. It's the reinforce, right? How much I can't tell how much in a letter of support for an article, how much I want to get into, or we should get into some of those issues. Whether we're basically, I mean, this is where I just threw in my the one sort of throw out here that this
No,
will require a lot of
I
work
just-
and investment.
I just wanted to raise the issue. It doesn't have to be in the letter, but
Yeah, no, that's what we have to confront in terms of,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be develop programs here. You could stick in something about how easy they are, but yeah, my one throw out to that is this will require a lot of work and investment. And now we have, it's tricky. How much to do in this thing here.
Like you said, it's a letter of support. I mean, how deep do you need to go?
no, you don't need to go deep.
That's why he's arguing I can make it a lot shorter. Okay, I'll look to make it shorter, but I'm not quite sure what, unless people have some particular point, if they can point out a point that we don't need to make. That shy of that. I can't tell by making it shorter whether what I'm going to achieve in terms of what audience is somehow going to read this, that somehow we'll get something out of this that they wouldn't get otherwise, other than if you just read the like the first two paragraphs, like the first three paragraphs. I mean, the one here about establishment of the EC, I want to throw out to the town that yes, you've been doing things, so that they don't feel like, wow, this is out of the blue, that this is sort of. But the question is, like in the first three paragraphs, should I put more urgency somewhere?
Actually, I think your first three paragraphs are the best, and I like that they are at the top.
Right, that's they're there. The
Yeah.
rest moves on to just acknowledging what the town's already done and then what the article says.
So then
Yeah.
would you want to use rhetoric along the lines of the article builds upon these prior initiatives, like as it's part of this continuum that's already, started with the
Well, that's where I
establishment?
struggled with this verb here, reinforce. I
How about
think
the
three
build on
verbs in
and
here.
reinforce?
It's like, I could put builds on ongoing town efforts, adds urgency to it. You're right, we can change that verb, but reinforce is my sense that we're basically building on existing efforts. I can make it clearer, but I was trying to make it shorter. But that's maybe my too subtle way of getting at the fact that the article asks the town that it's building on existing efforts. I could change reinforce. But
Is the goal to make it a one-page document, and is the goal to make it less words? If the goal is to make it a one-page,
I don't think it makes a
response,
difference.
if that's the case, then you can widen the margins just a touch. You can reduce the font just a touch, and you get it on one
I
page.
already did that.
Well, you're at font 11. You go to font 10, and
No. My main issue is that if people only get through the first three paragraphs, that achieves what we could have ended it at the third paragraph. But, and if they don't get beyond the third paragraph, fine. And it's a matter of, and it's partially educational because this is something that we might send to other boards. And that I want to send this to the select board, but I would probably also, another issue is to say whether we want to also send this to the planning board or the conservation commission and other things to say.
Michael, most importantly, addition is the advisory, and also put it on our group's website,
Mhm.
our committee's website, but advisory and select board is the.
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
not-
I couldn't tell how much to make it, I guess. What do you guys think about making this I'm assuming, by the way, that Dorothea and Gino are concurring with being included in this?
Sure,
Or we
absolutely.
could do separate ones.
Absolutely.
Quite an
agree.
assumption on your part, though.
That's why don't you see, check if joint, I have it in here that
I know.
but I'm glad I scrolled up to make sure that I check with you guys, you people, you folks. Yeah, the question is, should it be, I mean, we could rewrite this thing at some point if we want to amend it. I wanted to get it to the select board because I knew they were up next. Whether we want to make this at this time to the select board, since we serve the select board. So that's why I was sort of focused, and they were next, that I was focusing on it, whether we want to then add right now advisory board and all other town departments. Is that something I should add now? We should add now? Or just leave it to the select board and then?
It's fine where it is, and you can re-forward it to advisory. I don't think they'll be offended.
Partially to see what comes out of before they go to the select board.
Gino, any sense when this will show up with advisory?
Yes. They have 2 meetings scheduled to review warrant articles, March 2nd and 9th.
Thank you.
Okay,
Do
Frank,
the students know that?
I don't know.
Do we need to add the word urgent another way to deal with Frank's comment, other than this sentence here? And add more words.
No, you have the word urgent in that second paragraph.
Yeah, I guess I overlooked that word urgent in that second paragraph.
I could make it.
I'm trying to read fast, but you know, it just in underscoring it, you know, that we're trying to do some things by 2030 and 2050, and that is a really short time. You know that. But this is as what's going further in all our discussion, that this is the support in that, and that whole presentation is about that. And you know, I think Dorothea brought that up for their presentation as well. So I don't know that it necessarily needs to be underscored here any more than what it is, you know, as a result of our conversation.
I mean, right, one could put in a little phrase here in a short period of time. I don't know whether that's just, I don't like it. I don't like this wording at the moment. If somebody has some other, whether it's really worth trying to stick this time issue into this sentence here.
This will require a lot of near-term work and investment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I like that. Very good. There we go.
No,
Near-term.
not
Oh, yeah.
nearby.
Nearby too. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's gotta be in Sherborn.
Oh, I suppose that's true too.
Yeah. Near term, I guess, is one word, or is it two words, not hyphenated?
I don't know.
Hyphenated.
I
Near term.
rely on spell check.
I like hyphenations. Okay, so I got that.
Quick question while you do that. What were the dates again for the warrant article reviews? The 2nd and
You said 2nd and 9th or 8th?
Yes, 2nd and 9th.
9th.
of
Okay,
March.
thank you.
Okay, so the only words I add a little here. So we've added a few words. I don't know if we've come up with any idea. If anybody has any sense of something that should be dropped, that would help with the word count, but otherwise I'm not. Figure if they get through the first 3 paragraphs, so they just get through the first paragraph. I don't know. It's to the select board. I think they're a more educated audience. It's a little bit different than if I was writing to the general public, which we could do if we wanted to craft something for a newspaper, which would have a different tenor or tone and style. But
I think this does what we're trying to do in the letter of support. As Brad said, this is a letter of support. We're not trying to convince anybody of anything except that we totally support this article and there's reasons for it.
okay, fine. So we're going with this unless I have some brainstorm about something to reduce, or somebody has any brainstorm between now. I will send it out sometime later tomorrow. So that it's before the select board in time for their meeting.
Very good.
Okay, do we I guess the other motion was just to support the warrant article. So I move that, should we have a separate vote, I guess, to move this letter of support?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Michael, I. Tom,
Aye.
Gino? Actually, I'm gonna go to
I don't
Gino and
vote.
Dorothea too, because you're on this letter. But,
Yeah, we
Exactly.
just agree to be on it, but not vote on the motion.
yeah, okay, I know you shouldn't vote there. Okay, Brad,
Aye.
Brad,
Hi.
Frank,
I
did I get you, Tom? I can't remember.
You did, but I can vote twice.
Okay.
I'm from Chicago.
You have an ID?
And he's doing it often. Okay, good. It's 6:24. What other, let's see. We've, in terms of our agenda, oh, we do have, I guess, we should just quickly do, let's quickly do the minutes and not very long so that we keep up with that kind of thing. I'm stop sharing. I'm going to share again. Where are we? I think these are the minutes. People see minutes? Are they big enough?
Yeah, they're big enough.
Scroll down. Okay.
One fix is member absent, HOEK, not CK.
Okay.
And the spelling of my last name.
Oh, we got it. Jesus. Missed it again. We won't say who wrote these minutes. And where they
So
were.
again, it's HOEK. I don't know if that C has been removed from that.
Oh, H-O.
EK.
Oh, you're right. I forgot to remove that. Sorry.
Since I wasn't here for it, I'll be abstaining from the vote.
Okay. I guess Fred and I have looked at it, so it's up to Brad and Tom to say when they're through reading.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, same with me.
Let me know again.
Up further where it says about the students meeting with the Dover warrant team. Did you want to, I mean, it's the warrant committee. Did you want to put
Yeah,
the
where is it? Is
actual
that on
name?
this?
It's up a couple more paragraphs.
Oh, it was before we got, hold on.
There it is.
Oh, yeah. Was it the warrant? What do they call it? Warrant-
Committee, warrant committee.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm fine.
I'm watching Tom's head move back and forth.
Yep, yeah, I'm good now.
Yeah, good move not to reveal who wrote, who drafted these, Michael.
Oh, ooh, wow.
I was just trying to find an excuse never to have to do it again.
Nice try.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm okay.
I move that we accept the minutes as edited for
Second.
January 25th.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Michael, I, Tom,
Aye.
Brad,
aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Frank,
Same.
abstaining, 401, approved. Okay. terms of anything else we want to discuss, I guess we got the great news yesterday that we're getting a level 3 EV charger. So that'll zap cars. It'll be interesting to see what the use is.
Will that go in the same general location as the other
Yes.
one?
Yes, because the transformer or whatever it is that Eversource put in has the capability to support more stations. If we were to put it somewhere else, we'd have to put in that Eversource facility as well.
So, and we'll see how.
And I applied as that being the location.
So.
I was given some homework to quickly come up with a cost of level 3 chargers, and I'll share that with Mike. You can share it out, but basically 30 cents a minute is pretty much the going rate.
30 cents a minute.
A
Oh,
minute. So
So-
if you think about it, most at most superchargers and most level 3 chargers, most people are spending about 20 minutes and getting probably close to 80% of their charge that they need in that 20 minutes. So 20 minutes times 30 cents a minute is $6. So so that's not too bad.
the problem is that might be a little, yeah, we'll have to go see what that is. When I run that 30 cents a minute, if it's a 60 kilowatt charger, that means it's giving you maybe that 60 kilowatt hours, maybe an hour. That's maybe very, very roughly 1 kilowatt hour per minute. And if you're paying only 30 cents for a minute, that's 30 cents a kilowatt hour, which is the price we have for the other. But the cost is going to be easily twice that. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, we're going to have to talk about how to reconcile if that's the going rate, because I saw 60 cents a kilowatt hour in other places.
Yeah, I think in kilowatt hours. I don't know what you think in Frank. I'm not an EV owner yet, but that's how I think is in kilowatt hours.
Well, it's just a matter of what the pricing is. I'm just trying to figure out what the market is. What's the market price?
I was asked to, and I went on to the plug share apps and looked at the pricing, and normally the pricing per kilowatt hour, and this was a price per minute. So I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, if it's 30 cents a minute, we're going to have a little bit of a dilemma, I think, because that seems, I'll look at the numbers, but just a quick
I'll
impression.
share that with you, and there might be some other places to look at as well. But those.
Yeah, no, we're gonna just have to figure it out, because because it seemed like 60 to 70 or 8. I mean, it could cost over $1 kilowatt hour because the demand charge. See, the problem is how much it's utilized. It really comes down to the fact that one person charges at 60 kilowatts, and that's our demand. That's the peak demand charge that we get, and so we pay a lot of money for that. And then, but we don't have to pay that over and over again. If one person a day or 2 person a day uses it, it's the same peak demand charge. So so it really it'll be, so the cost to the town is going to depend a lot on whether we get even 1 person a day or to use it, which might bring the cost down. So we're going to have to do some scenarios about how many people use it, to see whether in the beginning the town's it's going to be quite pricey.
And I think the other challenge, and I think we had it with the other ones, are how do you keep them only there a limited time?
Well, I think at 30 cents a minute, you might get them out of there. That will be the problem there. The real problem
Okay.
is the fact of we need to get probably at least, I'll just do the math to see whether if you had 1 person every 2 days versus 1 person or 2 people a day, and what the cost of the town is for electricity. And we'll see at what point does it overlap with this 30 cents a minute fee, to see at what point we break even. And then we could decide whether it's much of an issue or not. And we'll see what other, I don't know what the use levels are. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more demand for this, I would think. So I don't know, do you have any sense of how many people have been using the paying chargers now? Gino?
Only 1 so far in February.
one in February. What's the, wow. Whoops. I'm gonna have to,
Put away that cricket.
it's a doctor thing. I gotta hold the other.
What's Michael? What are you doing, Michael?
That was kind of the right sound effect though, for one.
Yeah, one
user.
user.
Yeah, right. Yes, exactly. Sorry about that. I thought it was going to be more important. The only one user. Wow.
Weather's been bad.
Yeah, it
Right.
is winter.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
we've had
true.
some bad weather.
But yes, be interesting to see whether it was cleared. I don't know how, was it perfectly accessible?
Yes, it
Okay.
is, at least it is now. I think it was cleared pretty quickly.
Well, we'll find out. We don't want to have to live into just a few weeks of this thing, and we'll see how it goes over the next few months about this. And then we could decide what it means for things. Okay. It's been an hour and a half or so. It's time to get going. I guess at some point, let's pick another meeting, because I'd like to just sort of go over some things about what we're all doing and things on where we are in the climate action plan, or what people feel like they're happy working on. Because I'll just say for myself, I've been reflecting since the last meeting of how, besides different things like writing a letter here or there, that I sort of want to do a little focus for myself on doing the solar for the residents, and maybe talking with Gino more about how we really see where we can move forward on solar on the town buildings. But I want to pick my own little topic there or two to work on. And then with this issue with the heat pumps, or whatever. So that's a topic for next time, is just to see what people want to put their time into besides meeting. What's a good time? What's people's, when do people want to meet? 2 weeks, 3 weeks? I mean,
You got school vacation week, the 21st. I'm not affected by that. Other,
yeah, I mean, I have enough to do because I want to push on the solar and maybe some heat pump stuff. So
How about the 28th?
so it's a matter of whether other people know what they want to do. Sure. And whether other people feel like they have time on their hands and want to figure out what to do, or you guys all know what you want, how you want to spend what time you have on this thing, and whether the climate action plan is something that's, I mean, the only reason to meet is whether we figuring out whether people about what people want to do together, but I'm fine with the 28th.
that's good for me.
Is that a Monday?
It is.
Oh yeah, do you have a problem? 28th, do we want to meet a little earlier, 3:30 to 4 o'clock to 4:30?
Yep.
You know, people have preferences as to 4 o'clock, 3:30?
I thought Brad had the issue, right?
Yeah, Mondays are, so
Yeah.
I usually try to find coverage on the Mondays that we have meetings, because both my kids have extracurriculars in the evening, so it gets a little tricky. If we were to do,
It's 5 o'clock. Oh,
it's not, I mean, there's really no easy time
Oh, it
until
doesn't.
you get into like the late evening. But like I said, like I can typically find coverage. It's just, it gets tricky if it's like every other Monday, then it's very disruptive for me. And I'm only one member.
well, we could go to Tuesday. I mean, we only went to Monday because of the students to some extent. I mean, we still have, but the Tuesday works just as well for everybody.
Frank, it doesn't work though, right?
No, yeah, the rest of the week is pretty challenging other than Friday. Monday and Friday are my best days.
Okay.
But I need to go, guys. So what, just let me know when it works out, and so I can.
Okay.
I got to run in a minute too.
So what do we do? So,
Me
so
too.
Brad, do you have a preference if we're sticking you with a Monday?
I guess my preference would be that if it's every other week on a Monday, that's pretty tough on me.
Well,
If
this
it's
is
like every
every,
third week, then it's a little more palatable.
okay. Well, then maybe we have to find something else that's a compromise between you and Frank. But I guess for now, since he's not here, or I guess we'll impose upon you once more for the 28th on a Monday.
Yeah.
And we're, but what would be your preference for a time on that day, if any?
God, it really doesn't. I mean, I guess since I'm already gonna have to get coverage, I would say 4 o'clock. That way it doesn't cut as much into my workday.
Okay. 4 o'clock on Monday, the 28th.
Very good.
Okay, there's other things to do. Move to adjourn at 6:40. And I guess we'll have to tell Frank that we adjourned at 6:40 since he's the minute taker. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, any discussion? Michael, I, Tom,
aye.
Brad,
I
Fred.
Hey.
You guys are behaving so well.
We're being careful.
I know, I'm easily flustered.
He was just out. He wasn't on the mic. That's why it worked.
Okay, everybody. That's it. And I guess we'll have to find out when the article is in front of the select board. If anybody hears anything about it, you can let us all know, and I'll get out the letter tomorrow.
I should be able to find out tomorrow, let everybody know.
Yeah, it should get posted tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just can't tell whether they list the thing or they just take their time as to working through it all, because who knows how long it'll take them to get through it. Although I guess they have a subset. Because this is.
Gino, do you have a list of all the articles?
You have a draft of it? I actually don't want the list. I want a draft.
I don't have that yet. I can see tomorrow again if they have that available.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's not even a complete draft of all the warrant articles. Wow.
It might be ready. Nobody just automatically gives it to me. So, but if I ask, it might be ready.
Okay.
Just a quick question, guys, for me to get this straight in the head. When can they change the language of the original article that they put in? Is that in front of the select board or in front of the advisory?
Technically, they can't change it until on town meeting floor. Sometimes select board will, allow some language changes, usually minor, before it goes to printing, but I wouldn't count on that because that's technically not what they're supposed to do.
At this point, there's still, if you look at the original article, it still has like a reference to Needham in it. That needs to go.
Hopefully they'll allow that kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope so. That's just
um,
correcting a typo, basically, essentially.
Yeah.
I guess if you're
exactly.
communing with the students, you should go ask them to, if they have any other minor things, whether they should just go ahead and I guess that it seemed a little up in. Dorothea, do you mind letting them know that they are going to possibly be on the agenda on the 10th or the 12th? And that maybe they should just submit a clean version with the Needham at least corrected or any other typos?
You have to explain this to me. Is it voluntary to show up with a presentation or not? Right? I mean, literally every petitioner of the articles have to show up, and
Right.
is this obligatory?
Well, generally it's for when they're reviewing them, that the promoters are there to answer questions.
Okay, so Gino, do you have like an agenda for that by
That's what he said. He's
tomorrow?
going to try to find out tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay. Town hall is a little bit nutty at this time. That's at least how I perceive it. For example, my Nextdoor account, including with the Council of Aging, basically is not active since 3 months because they have closed it. So hopefully we can get back on and having Jean Guthrie straighten this out, but there's a lot of stuff to do. I mean, that David took care of, I guess, on the side. That's now falling in their laps. So I will certainly communicate that tonight, that the select board is reviewing these articles. It would be for them to keep it open. I mean, but if you don't have a time slot for them to show up, it's going to be difficult to commit for them. They have full schedules, right?
Just like everybody else. That's part of what it takes to promote something, is that you have to find that. I mean, like our lives are so unscheduled. But no, I think what more is to say to them is that maybe they should, if they had any typos or cleanup, like the Needham thing, that they should submit that ASAP.
Yeah, I know what Gino said is that, it's not exactly above board to do that, but it almost seems like that's such a glaring and potentially damning one. It's almost like you're better off correcting it and then dealing with any fallout if it's noted.
Correct.
So yes, I don't think it's going to be an issue.
So give me instructions. Do they have to submit this cleaned up version to whom and when, by when?
I would just suggest that they just send it into the town administrator, to the town administrator.
And
just-
copy Jeannie Guthrie.
Right.
Okay,
Send it to Diane, copy Jeannie.
Right.
correct. Okay,
And they could also just ask if they could ask for when they would be in front of the select board and say if they could, and they could make an appeal to say, can you give us a specific time so that we can, or some options so that they can make it work with their schedule. If they want to try something that adults don't get that benefit. But maybe as students, they might give them a more precise sense of time, but maybe not.
good.
But okay, that's it. I gotta go.
All right.
Night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.